Is happening, guys? Good morning, and thank you for tuning in. This is episode 13 of Tuesday Training. We got a stellar training coming up for you. I guarantee it. Our guest today has a ton of knowledge, and we're about to tap into it in a little bit. But first, I like a little bit of news for y'all. I was woke up this morning, was scrolling Kaiser Family Foundation, which if you're a health insurance agent, you should absolutely tune in to the Kaiser Family Foundation page. I jumped on this morning and I saw this little graph, this little chart. This is their chart of the day, apparently. And they are basically telling us that the typical Medicare beneficiary has nearly 70 Medicare Advantage and Part D standalone options for 2023. 70 options. That's 70 times that they can get confused about about what plan they need, why they need it, etc. And that's aside from the Medicare supplement side of the equation, which is a whole nother argument. We're not there to get into that. I just thought that little piece was kind of interesting, right? And that's going to play a little bit into what we're talking about today, because a big part of what we are talking about is how to retain 93% of your business. And our trainer is going to teach you on that. But this tells into that, because if they have 70 different Medicare Advantage plans, Part D drug plans, they're confused as hell. They're getting marketed to like crazy. Guess what happens? People are trying to flip your business, right? And especially happening during AEP, right? Just because you write them yesterday on a Humana plan doesn't mean that's the plan that's going to go into effect next year, because somebody else is calling them and they're explaining all the reasons why you sold them the wrong plan and they need to be in a Aetna plan or a United Healthcare plan, or they need something else. So great thing to think about, right? There's 70 different options out there. So little crazy, I thought. And one other piece of news that is also pretty crazy I want to show y'all that I found on that same site. And again, this is on Kaiser Family Foundation. But check this out. This is in regards to the unwinding, as they call it, of the Medicaid continuous enrollment period. So if you're not familiar with this, let me show this to you real it kicked off and the pandemic happened, right? Medicaid made a rule, or Congress, I should say, make a rule. Everybody was required, all the states were required to keep people in Medicaid through the end of the month. They were calling it continuous enrollment. Well, that is ending January 11th of next year. And why is that important? Well, as you see right here, one of the big pieces is that between 5 million and 14 million people are going to lose Medicaid coverage. Their low-end guess, 5 million, is based on people that are coming in that are new and they're going to earn Medicaid for the first time. So they're thinking maybe that offsets it. But on the high end, there could be that is pretty substantial. And the other points in here, but the two stuck out to me that I just want to stick the point to you guys is number disabilities are at the greatest risk. They're selling ACA plans out there. People without health insurance could increase if people lose Medicaid coverage and they're unable to transition. So basically what I'm trying to say is that 2023 is already shaping up to be a very wild health insurance enrollment time, not only for the Medicare, Medicaid space, but for the ACA market as well. And I just kind of want to point some of that stuff out to you guys. I'm going to post that article as soon as I get done here so you guys can look at that entire piece. But again, if you're in the health insurance space, you should absolutely tune into Kaiser Family Foundation. They put a lot of great information out there that keeps you up to speed, understanding trends, understanding changes in the marketplace, etc. The other big thing that's happening next year that I don't have an article for, but you probably know this if you're in the Medicare space, is the insulin cap, obviously at $35, right? Well, because Congress rolled out that insulin cap so late in the year, right? If you haven't already noticed, I think I talked about this some last week. If you're doing comparisons on people's drug plans, you're seeing that there are some issues, right? You're not always getting perfect pricing, because when Congress made this rule for the Inflation Reduction Act at the end of the year, most of the carriers, they didn't have time to go get all their drug pricing in place and get it reported to all these platforms that do comparisons. So comparison's a little off. Because of that, anybody that takes insulin, basically, and I think pretty much anybody that's on Medicare, They're going to get a whole SEP for all of next year to make one plan change. If they feel like they didn't make the right plan change to help them cover their insulin costs properly, right? Because the comparison costs aren't correct right now. They really aren't. Like, you're having to work harder as a Medicare agent out there to make sure that you're getting the right drug pricing for these folks. But because of that, they're going to get an SEP for all of 2023. They can make one change only. I posted that article last week. I'll pull that one up again and reshare it in the group. But those are just some few news items that I kind of wanted to mention and kind of keep you guys aware of, and I will make sure that stuff is shared in the group. But without further ado, I would like to put on exactly what Chase McAllister here is talking about, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Pete Fournier himself. What's going on, my buddy?
Tony, brother, it's been too long.
It has been too long, man. We were on the road together. We got to have a lot of fun, and I miss you. I only get to see you virtually now. So hopefully we'll get into a room together soon.
Absolutely.
What have you been up to out there in North Carolina?
Oh, just slinging some policies, having a decent Q4 between AEP, doing a little bit of ACA, doing a lot more group this year. Obviously life insurance per usual because it's my favorite, and a little bit of short-term medical. So there's a lot of, I don't know why every open enrollment is at the end of the year. It stinks and it's awesome at the same time. So just running on all cylinders.
Well, if there's anybody that lives up to the name of your agency, All Things Insurance Group, you are definitely the guy that can do that. So I caught your, I think it was an Instagram reel or a TikTok reel or something that you were talking about that, hey, look, if you've been in the business a while, if you've been in this thing 18 months, 24 months, and you're successful, it's time to start going wide, right?
It is. I think there's riches in the niches in the beginning, and you should be like a one-trick pony for 12 to 18 months. And then start expanding. I mean, there's no reason to just sell one product, especially if you're a personal producer. I see agency building could be a little bit different, and it's a lot of moving parts to juggle. But if you're out there slinging policies on your own as a solopreneur, you got one agent underneath you, learn how to do multiple things. It's silly not to. And your retention gets higher with that, which I'm going to talk about today.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Well, this is a perfect time. And I've heard some of this talk before. I've heard you talk about retention and so forth. So I know that they're in for a treat. You might shape it up for AEP because this is a hot time, right?
It really is. You need to hang on to your client.
A ton of business. Let's get into it, man. I'm going to give you the floor, and I want you to show these people how to keep it. So with that said, my friend, the floor is yours.
Thanks, my man. I appreciate it. Okay, guys. So like Tony mentioned, Pete Fournier, owner of All Things Insurance Group. We're a national IMO that does pretty much everything in the life and health space. And I've been in the business. It'll be 12 years next month. That's where all this gray hair comes from. That, and I'm having a baby on Friday, hopefully, knock on wood, first one. So looking forward to that. When I started out, I was really good at slinging insurance, hence the sign right there, but I wasn't good at keeping the clients. I was getting crushed with chargebacks. I wasn't having good retention on my agents because they were getting crushed with chargebacks because they didn't know how to keep their policies. I wound up 48 grand in roll-up debt. A lot of you guys know my backstory already, so I won't get into it, but it's uber imperative to be able to hang on to your client base, especially the audience that's watching, obviously, in a renewal-based business, Medicare, ACA, short-term medical, group benefits, etc. Life insurance, also important, maybe not as much as the health side, but you got to be able to retain your business. Right now on my book, personally, I have 93.6% retention as of last week. Pull reports usually bi-weekly for retention. And for the agency, we are at 89.4% across all lines of coverage. So we tend not to lose clients. And I'm going to teach you how to do that today with 3 easy steps. Make it really simple. The first one, like Tony and I were discussing right before he jumped off, was learn how to sell multiple lines of coverage. If you are an individual producer and you are just slinging life insurance and you've been in this game more than like 1.5 to 2 years, you got to be cross-selling a health product. You got to sell indemnity plans. You got to sell critical illness. You got to sell ACA. You got to sell short-term medical. You got to sell Medicare. You got to sell annuities. The more apps you have in a house, the stickier you are going to become as their agent. I promise. It's very hard to unwind you. That's why, like, all these, not to knock on PNC, right, Joe? But all these captive PNC shops out there, and I won't name them, you guys know them, try to bundle all these packages together with life and PNC, home, auto, etc., because it makes it stickier. And people have the perception, well, if I leave one, oh my gosh, it's going to affect my other policies. It works that way on the independent side too. So if you're brand new, don't listen to this advice. Keep running down the path of least resistance, whatever your mentor is teaching you, life insurance solely, Medicare solely, ACA, etc. Get some commissions, get some income under your belt. And then once you're a year and a half, maybe even 2 years in, depending on your learning curve, start expanding your product portfolio based on the clients you have. Meaning, if you're running and gunning final expense right now, you need to be adding Medicare and eventually annuities. If you're selling a lot of mortgage protection and you're running with life insurance on MP, you got to be selling ACA and short-term medical, maybe infinite banking, something of that nature, to make yourself stickier as an agent, so you're not just facilitating transactions anymore. So that's step one. Learn how to become a Swiss Army knife for your clients. The more problems that you solve, the more money you're going to make. It's just how it works. Okay. Now, steps 2 and 3 is more of scripting. Okay. I have a very high retention rate because I developed a script for the end of my presentation, whether in a house or on the phone. I'm a big fan of the field, but I've transitioned more and more to telesales recently, especially with COVID and everything. So you can do this in the field or on the phone, and you can do it with any product line that you're selling. I mainly invented it for life insurance, but you can use it for Medicare, ACA, short-term annuities, you name it. Okay. So at the end of your close, your presentation, I like to do it when I'm like closing up shop. I'm putting the stuff back in my work bag. I'm about to leave the house, or I'm kibitzing with them and about to end the phone call. And I'm going to say, listen, Joe and Mary, would you agree that I made a lot of promises to you today? I promised that this policy is going to pay out tax-free to your beneficiaries. I promised that it came with living benefits for critical, chronic, terminal illness. I promised this short-term medical plan only has a $3,000 deductible and XYZ copay. Make the list really long on what you promise that the products that you pitch them are going to do for them in the future. Really, really long. Okay. Even if you're just selling one product, there's like 17 benefits to that one final expense product. So make your promises list very long. You're going to say, Joe and Mary, I made you all these promises. Can you do me a favor and make me 2? I'm going to say, sure, go ahead, Pete. Okay. The first one, okay, is that if this product, policy, final expense, short-term medical, whatever, ever becomes unaffordable 5, 10, 15 years down the road, I want you to call me. There's things that we can do to rearrange the product to make it fit within your budget. God forbid life happens. We all know life happens. So if you have a catastrophic event financially, I need you to call me. The worst thing that you can do is up and cancel the policy, because you'll lose all the equity that you put into it. Okay. So we agree that it fits within your budget today, right? Great. Well, if that ever changes, I want you to call me. Worst thing you can do is up and cancel. Okay. And number 2, Joe and Mary, is there are hundreds of thousands of insurance agents out there. Okay. I think it's the most popular profession. Granted, you have the best one, but you're going to get a call. You're going to get a door knock. You're going to get a cold text to your cell phone. And someone's going to tell you, oh, your policy's crap. That Pete Fournier guy doesn't know what he's talking about. I could get you a better rate, better product, better solution, etc. What I want you to do, Joe and Mary, if that situation occurs, I want you to simply be cordial to them. It's their job. Be nice and get a quote and send it to me. You can text it to me. You can email it to me. You have all my contact info. Get a quote and shoot it over to me. Now, if it's better, I'll tell you that it's better. I'll even do the paperwork to help you get into that better product. Wink, wink. But if it's not better, I'll tell you why it's not better. And we can also 3-way call that other agent that solicited you and tell them why it's not better. Sound fair enough? It's a very, very strong close. 2 promises, solidification at the end of every presentation that you're doing. Okay. You're alleviating buyer's remorse. You're alleviating unaffordability because people are all jacked up and emotional, right? Because all sales are emotional. They're all jacked up and emotional in the sales process. But then that draft date hits and they're like, oh man, what did I do? Well, instead of up and canceling or being like, I need all my money back, they're already predetermined that they're going to call you. Okay. Similarly, I preface it that way 5, 10, 15 years down the road because we want to keep our advances and renewals for a while, right? So they at least are not canceling in the first 13 months. There's no way. I'm a big life insurance guy. We make most of our money up front, right? So 5, 10, 15 years down the road, if this becomes unaffordable, I need you to call me. And you're alleviating replacements. As Tony said, with SEPs coming up, if you're in the Medicare space, especially on the insulin thing, I understand they're trying to do good things for people getting screwed out of certain products or promotions or whatever. So they're developing these SEPs, but a bunch of scumbag agents are going to take advantage of that. So don't let it happen to your book of business. Do the 2 promises solidification at the end of every sale. I promise you it works because I do it every time. Okay. Now, that's going to alleviate probably 15% of your chargebacks, just simply doing that with maybe a thank you card at the end. Okay. Now, in the unlikely event that they actually call you, and remember, when you get that phone call, either on your cell phone or your CRM, pick up the friggin' phone. Like, don't let it go to voicemail because they're going to cancel anyway. You might as well have one more at bat, one more defensive shot to keep that policy on the books. So when they go to call you, pick up, and they're going to say, oh, Pete, we talked it over. I discussed it with the tooth fairy or my cousin who's been in the business for a week or my mom or whoever. They're going to make up some excuse and they're going to be like, you were great, but we want our money back. I think we don't need this right now. I think we're going to cancel. What I want you to remember in this situation, this is the simplest return script ever, is 3 words: did, do, and why. That's it. Did, do, and why. So as they make up their excuses and they want to cancel and they want their refund, blah, 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 you're going to say, Joe and Mary, not a problem. I'm going to do a brief survey because the company wants me to do it, i.e. Pete Fournier, wants me to do it, and then I'll process your cancellation, okay? What are they going to say, F you? No, of course not. They're going to go through the process with you. So again, remember did, do, and why. So Joe and Mary, first part of the survey, did anything change in your financial situation from, I don't know, Tuesday when I wrote you and today's Friday? No, Pete, nothing changed. Like we didn't lose our jobs or anything. Everything's the same. Okay, perfect. And you're going to either pretend to write that down, or if you're on like a CRM, you're going to do that weird thing that Delta does when they pretend to look up like change flights. Type or pretend to write. Okay. Did anything change in your financial situation between the time that I wrote you the policy to now? No. Awesome. Great. 2, do you feel like I did anything wrong, Joe and Mary, in delivering the product to you, or do you feel like I misrepresented the product that I sold to you? No, Pete, you were great. You're awesome. Super nice, super knowledgeable. No, you didn't do anything wrong. Okay, great. I'm going to pretend to write that down. Okay. And then the last question, Joe and Mary, and I'll go ahead and process your cancellation, is why? Why did you buy the policy in the first place? This works really well on life insurance, but also works super well on MedSup, ACA, annuities, etc. Why did you buy the policy in the first place? They're not going to tell me, because you rammed it down our throats and you pressured us to do it and blah, blah, blah. No, there was an emotional value attached to that product, and that's why you purchased it from me. So explain is what I'm asking. And they're going to say, I wanted to protect my family. I wanted to lower my health insurance costs. I wanted future savings plans. I wanted to protect my money from the market, whatever their excuse was on why they purchased the product from you. And you're going to say, okay, Joe and Mary, I really appreciate that. Thanks for answering my survey questions. Do you still want me to process your cancellation? And what do you think they're going to say to you after blatantly reselling themselves on the policy? They're going to say no. Okay. Very rarely does this happen, but I've used it probably 24 times in my career. I've lost one after going through that survey. They actually said, like, yeah, let's process. Yeah, we still want our money back, blah, blah, blah. Can't do anything about it. You're not going to have 100% retention. It's impossible. And if you do have it, like there's some naysayer or some green in the audience or whatever being like, I have 100% retention, you don't write enough premium. Okay. That's what I'll say to that. So if you think your retention rate is so high, you need to write more products or policies. But the scripting is going to work. In the case of my personal pen, 93.6% of the time. Okay. You might lose a handful, but over the course of time, you're going to keep your policies on the books. So once again, just to reiterate, 3 steps to higher retention, over 93% retention, or maintaining 93% of your book, is 1, learn how to sell more products. Again, if you're coming into this late, don't take this advice if you're in your first year. Okay. Run with blinders on, selling life, selling Medicare, selling ACA, selling annuities, whatever your mentor is teaching you. Do that one-off product. Once you're in this a year, 18 months, you start making steady money, then start turning into a Swiss Army knife. The more policies that you have in a client's house, the stickier you are going to become as their agent. Okay. So write more products. You're going to do a 2 promises solidification at the end of every sale that you make. Okay. And then did, do, and why. If they do call to cancel, do that for the prospect. And if you own an office and you're a big wig and you got all these people working for you, teach your admins that. Teach your secretary that. Teach your assistant that script if you're not the one answering the phone because you're too busy. That's okay. But teach your service people the scripting so they can keep the policy on the books for you. That's all I got for the day. Hope that was good.
That is awesome stuff. Love it. Thank you so much, Pete. The do did why. I'm curious though, is there anything different that you do in that, or if you need to? I mean, I guess you probably haven't had anybody with a Mets up call you and try to cancel yet. But is there anything that you might do a little different in how you say some of those things if you're selling life versus Mets up or MA or something like that?
On the MA, you don't necessarily have to do 2 promises. You just do 1 because there's usually not an affordability thing on the MA. I mean, I guess you could argue out-of-pocket expenses, but usually I just tell them, hey, you got to make me 1 promise. There's a million call centers. There's a million agents. You might even get the occasional door knock, which is not technically allowed. And someone's going to be like, oh, your product's crap. It's AEP. You could switch multiple times, try something else out. Hey, get the information and then run it by me. If it's better, I'll tell you that's better. I'll replace myself. I don't care. Right. But if it's not, I'll tell you that it's not. Other than the MA side, you can do 2 promises on almost every one. Meds up, final expense, certainly annuities, short-term medical plans, ACA, etc. Awesome. But MA is the only one I would kind of just vary.
Good stuff, man. I love it. I love it. How can people get in touch with you? Right. We got a lot of people in this group, people watching this show. They're interested. They probably want to reach out to Pete Fournier, see what they can do to get involved and maybe, get some extra help. How do people find you?
Yeah, you can visit petefournier.com is my teaching and learning site. There's a bunch of free resources on there. There's a bunch of paid resources on there. And then I'm at Peter J. Fournier on every social media. So I manage my own platform. If you DM me, I'll certainly answer you at some point in time. But feel free to reach out with any questions.
Right on. Man, you've got it. Thank you so much, Pete, for tuning in. Or thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for dropping the nuggets for us. We appreciate it. Guys, that is outstanding stuff. Love it. When am I going to see you again? What do you got going on? Are you on tour? Are you speaking anywhere soon?
No, I haven't been on a plane in 2 months, which feels like almost eerie at this point because I took 77 legs last year. I don't want my American Airlines points to get all dusty. But my wife's due on Friday. So I don't know if I'll be going anywhere for a little while, or maybe I'll need to. We should do a mastermind in the pajamas or something.
That's a good idea. I like the way that sounds, man. Congratulations on the upcoming baby. Do you
Thank you.
know gender reveal already done? Is it a girl? Is it a boy?
It's a girl. It's my punishment for sure. Um,
Oh,
we did not do a
fantastic.
gender reveal. I'm excited now, but the gender
Yeah,
reveal,
yeah.
opening the little card and the doctors write female on it, which is like the most non-nice way to do it. And for like 15 seconds, I was like, oh man. So it's
I
good we
assume,
didn't film
all right.
that.
I assume you got a name picked out?
We do, yeah. Well, we have like two or three. Meg wants to do the whole thing where you like look at her and be like, "It's this."
Tony. It's
So
definitely Tony.
it's definitely Tony. Tony with an I for a girl.
Right on. Well, man, thank you again for tuning in or joining us today. Thanks again, guys, for tuning in. We are here every Tuesday with some of the top trainers, dropping wisdom for y'all that you can take out and help you in the field. Next week, man, next week we got another big one. We got Galen Hendricks dropping by. So you don't want to
Nice.
miss that one.
Speaking of
So
retention, spouse in the house, get on there.
absolutely. Absolutely. So she's going to be talking to you guys like about stuff like spouse in the house and certainly cancer policies. A lot of the same kind of stuff that Pete's talking about. So thanks again, guys, for tuning in. Y'all have a phenomenal, phenomenal day. Have a great Thanksgiving. Pete, have a phenomenal Thanksgiving.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving, bro.
Happy holidays. We will see y'all next Tuesday live at 9 a.m. Y'all have a great day.